Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To carry on with the special embryology lectures, I'm going to discuss in the common presentations the development of the heart. I'm Dr. Dalia Saleh, Professor and Head of Anatomy Department at Mansoura University, Egypt. The objectives of my presentations will be: first, I'm going to talk about the development and formation of the heart tube, then the formation of the heart loop, the development of atrium and the interatrial septum, the partitioning of the atrioventricular canal, the development of the ventricles and the interventricular septum, the septation of the outflow tract of the heart, the anomalies of the heart, and finally the fetal circulation versus the adult circulation and the changes that take place in the fetal circulation at birth. The cardiovascular system develops as early as the middle of the third week of development, and this is because of the enlargement of the gestational sac and the rapidly developing embryo. So simple diffusion is not enough for the embryo to get its nutrition. That's why the cardiovascular system starts to appear as early as the third week. You know that the cardiovascular system is mesodermal in origin. So mesodermal cells proliferate and form isolated islands, both extra-embryonic in the wall of the yolk sac, in the connecting stalk and in the chorion, and also intra-embryonic in what is called cardiogenic area or cardiogenic plate. So mesodermal cells form the angioblastic cells or blood-forming cells. These angioblastic cells arrange in groups. The peripherally light cells become flat and form the endothelial lining of the tubes, either the blood vessels or the heart tube, while the centrally located cells detach and form the primitive blood cells, which lies inside these tubes. The newly formed tubes forms a network of blood vessels, both extra-embryonic and also form the two heart tubes. Now, the blood can circulate between the uteroplacental circulation and the newly developed fetal cardiovascular system. Now let's see how the primitive heart is formed. As you can see, this is a cut section in the gestational sac. Let's rotate it like this. This is the amniotic cavity. This is the yolk sac cavity. And in between them lies the embryonic disc. If we enlarge it, this is the cardiogenic area, and this is the area where the heart will be formed. And as you can see, it is initially located at the most cranial end of the embryonic disc. The cavity that lies above the cardiogenic area will form the pericardial cavity. In this picture, you can see the embryonic disc from above. This is the primitive node, this is the primitive streak, and you know that the primitive node and the primitive streak are the areas responsible for formation of the intraembryonic mesoderm. So cells migrate from these two areas and form the intraembryonic mesoderm. Angioblastic cells migrate from the primitive node and the primitive streak and arrange themselves in a horseshoe-shaped area or U-shaped area at the most cranial end of the embryonic disc. We call this area the cardiogenic area. And the two heart tubes extend from the sides of this area. With lateral folding of the embryo, the two heart tubes will fuse and form a single heart tube. So these are the two heart tubes at the sides, and they will fuse with each other in the midline and form a single heart tube. If we take a cross section in it, you can see the two heart tubes at the sides, and with lateral folding due to expansion of the amniotic cavity, the two heart tubes will approximate to each other, and they finally fuse in the midline and form a single heart tube. At first, the heart tube is straight. 5 distinct regions will be visible in this heart tube. These are the atria, the ventricle, and the pulpus cordis. Also, we have the inflow part of the heart, we call it sinus venosus, and the outflow part of the heart, we call it the truncus arteriosus. So you can see 5 distinct regions in the heart tube, from caudal to cranial, the sinus venosus, the atrium, the ventricle, the pulpus cordis, and the truncus arteriosus. With formation of the head fold of the embryo, the developing heart will change its position and become ventral to the pharynx. With enlargement of the brain vesicle, the heart will rotate downward to lie ventral to the pharynx. Also, the heart tube descends downward and invaginates the pericardial cavity. At first, it is suspended inside the pericardial cavity by dorsal mesocardium. Later on, this dorsal mesocardium will disappear and the transverse lines of the pericardium will be formed. Here you can see the atrium, the ventricle, the pulpus cordis, the sinus venosus, and the truncus arteriosus, and this circle represents the pericardial cavity. The heart tube grows faster than the pericardial cavity, so it is forced to bend upon itself. With further growth and further elongation of the heart tube, it bends more and more. So now the heart tube is transformed into what is called heart loop, and it looks like the letter S. The right limb of the S-shaped loop is formed of the truncus arteriosus and the pulpus cordis, while the transverse limb is formed by the primitive ventricle, and the left limb is formed of the primitive atrium and the sinus venosus. And after the formation of the heart loop, we can see that the atria lies behind and above the two ventricles, and the truncus arteriosus lies in the middle between them. If we rotate the heart loop to see the atrium from behind, this area represents the atrium, and you can see that the sinus venosus, or the inflow part of the heart, empties inside it. In the beginning, it is formed of a body and two horns, right and left, with many veins draining into it. It opens into the back of the atria through an opening called the sinoatrial orifice or sinoatrial opening, which is at first it is centrally located. Later on, with a modulation of the venous system of the cardiovascular system, there will be shifting or shunting of the blood to the right side. As a result, the right sinus horn will blend with the wall of the atria and form the smooth part of the right atria, and the veins terminate into the right horn will form the superior and the inferior vena cava. The left sinus horn will form the oblique vein of the left atrium, and the body of the sinus venosus will form the coronary sinus. Also, the sinoatrial orifice will be shifted to the right side. If we take a longitudinal section in the heart and see how the blood flows inside it, you can see at the back the sinus venosus, or now we can call them the superior and the inferior vena cava. This is the atria, the ventricle, the truncus arteriosus, and this is the atrioventricular canal. So blood comes from the veins into the atrium, down to the ventricle through the AV canal, and exits the heart through the truncus arteriosus. Now, how the heart is septated into separate chambers. We need to know the partitioning of the AV canal, the atrial septum formation, the ventricular septum formation, and the septation or division of the outflow tract, both the conus cordis and the truncus arteriosus. During septation of the heart, remember that there must always be a right to left passage, meaning that there will be no complete septation of the heart till the time of birth. Let's revise this picture again. This is the common atria, the common ventricle, the truncus arteriosus, the sinus venosus, and this is the AV canal. So inside the atrioventricular canal, two cushions appear. One is inferior, the other one is superior, and they simply grow towards each other and fuse in the midline and form septum called the septum intermedium. So this is the superior and the inferior cushions. They grow and meet in the middle in a septum called the septum intermedium. Now the atrioventricular canal is divided into right AV canal and left AV canal. Now blood can pass from the sinus venosus to the common atrium through both AV canals to the ventricles and out of the heart through truncus arteriosus. How the interatrial septum is formed. First, a C-shaped membrane appears in the wall of the atrium. We call it septum premium. It grows towards the septum intermedium, but it cannot reach the end. So it leaves a foramen or ostium below it. We call it ostium premium. Before the ostium premium closes by the growth of the septum premium, another ostium or opening appears in the septum premium. We call it ostium secundum. As ostium premium closes up and disappears, the ostium secundum enlarges. Another membrane appears to the right of the septum premium to cover the ostium secundum. We call it septum secundum, this blue membrane here. The septum secundum contains a permanent opening between it and the septum premium. We call it the foramen ovale. The septum premium degenerates and acts as a flap or a valve for the foramen ovale, so blood can push this septum and pass from the right atrium directly to the left atrium. How the ventricles develop and of course the interventricular septum. Remember that we have two swellings here, the ventricular swelling and the pulvis cordis. So the primitive ventricle will form most of the left ventricle, while the pulvis cordis will form a part of the right ventricle, the conus cordis or the outflow part of both ventricles, and the truncus arteriosus will give us the roots of both the aorta and the pulmonary trunk. How the interventricular septum is formed? Simply, the two primitive ventricles expand. When they expand, their medial walls oppose, and a muscular septum grows towards the septum intermedium. So now the two ventricles are partially partitioned or separated from each other by this muscular interventricular septum, and still a foramen, it is called the interventricular foramen, lies between these two ventricles. Later on, this foramen will close up by a membrane when there is a septation or division of the truncus arteriosus. How truncus arteriosus or outflow tract of the heart is partitioned. When the neural crest cells migrate towards the truncus arteriosus, two ridges appear and they grow from the inner walls of the truncus arteriosus and the pulpus cordis. They twist around each other and fuse to form a spiral aorticopulmonary septum. This septum grows inferiorly towards the ventricles and fuse with the muscular part of the interventricular septum to close the interventricular foramen. Upon completion of this process, now the two ventricles are completely septated into right and left, and also the truncus arteriosus and pulpus cordis are completely separated. So now the truncus arteriosus separates into post pulmonary trunk and the aorta, and you can see that these two big vessels rotate around each other in a spiral way. This is because of the formation of a spiral aorticopulmonary septum. This is the end of part 1 of my presentation in the development of the cardiovascular system. If you like it, please do not forget to subscribe, like, and share.